Hi, everyone. Hi, Anand. Thanks for being here. Hi, Brianne. Nice to see you. Let's see, wait for all the things to pop up. How's everyone doing out there? Are you excited for the Saturn and Jupiter conjunction? I'm just waiting for people to pop in. Let me know if you can hear me okay. I'm always like unsure if it's working till someone says something. And there's always a delay with the chat, of course. Okay, I can see the views now. It's like slow to warm up today. Hey, Heidi. Thank you. Okay. Thank you, Brianne. I did reply to your comment already. Hi, Karen. Hello. I'm not going to try to say your French name. Thank you. Hi, Diane. Lots of people popping in. Of course, I can see the numbers of viewers too. So how are you guys feeling? I thought this would be like kind of an open chat, even though like I'm the only person talking, but you know, there's the chat. How are you guys feeling about the conjunction? Are you feeling it? I mean, they're already conjunct. Are you feeling this energy? And it's kind of like, to me, as an astrologer, it's like anything in astrology. Some people will feel it a lot, and I would say like most people will feel nothing, right? They'll be like, what are you talking about, right? But the people who are sensitive to it or who follow astrology and take note of like, oh yeah, I am noticing that in my life, will feel it a lot. So I'm assuming everyone who's watching this is feeling the energy to some degree or is curious about what it means, right? So let's see. I lost track. Anand says this is exciting. Oh, hello, Louise. Thank you. And Anand says, so powerful. Diane says, I'm feeling excitement. Great. Yes, much better. Okay. Yeah, so I'm feeling, I mean, again, we're already in it. I feel it's exciting. Hey, Jen. I feel like it feels good to me, but you know, with astrology, it depends on people's personal astrology. Like for me, Saturn just left my first house after, like he was on my ascendant within 3 degrees either side, and in my first house for 4 years. And it was very difficult the last 4 years. If you don't know, that was my pregnancy and my very long recovery and everything with that. So like to me, things feel lighter. So this is talking Western astrology, which I'll probably stay with that, but I'll touch on both too. But most people out there will be familiar with Western astrology. Hi, Lisa. Who else has come in? I think I caught everyone. So to me, this energy feels lighter. To me, it feels good that Saturn and Jupiter are here together. And on the solstice, they'll both be, I believe that just before the solstice, Jupiter joins Saturn at 0 degrees of Aquarius. Like to me, it feels good. It feels more open, more free. Aquarius, you know, is like the humanitarian sign. And I feel like those who work with both the energies of Jupiter and Saturn, who are able to expand and know when to slow down and restrict, who are able to expand laying long-term foundations in their lives, who are able to balance like the tug and pull, the back and forth, which is, you know, because Saturn and Jupiter can be like opposing, like they're very opposite, but it doesn't mean they can't work together. And I talk about that in my video I made a while ago on the something like working with the energies of Jupiter and Saturn. It's like if you can bring them together. And usually it has to do with working with Saturn's energy, because that's, you know, Saturn's considered the great malefic. He's bad, he's dreaded, he brings obstacles and challenges and slows things down. And Jupiter's considered all good, he's benefic, the great benefic, growth and expansion. He's like Santa Claus. So when people have that dichotomy view of them stuck in their head, it can be more difficult to learn how to work with their energies together. Hi, Lady Blind Wolf, just catching up on who's coming in. Heidi, Wandering Wild Woman says, feels like a release and a major turning point. Yeah, so that's how it feels to me. But of course, personally, I've had a heavy Saturn transit that has taught me really well how to work with Saturn's energy. So it feels lighter, but I also feel very confident in them being conjunct, because I think, at least, I'm working well with Saturn's energy. And when you do that, you allow Jupiter's energy to expand. You let the restrictions become the growth. So another way to say is you learn from the challenges, whatever obstacles life throws in your way, and turn those into opportunities and growth in whatever area of life it's affecting, or your whole life, right? The energy feels still very restrictive. So it is. There'll still be restriction with Saturn's energy, but as they're both about to be moving into Aquarius together, I think this is sort of like Heidi said, a turning point. Yeah, a major turning point for the planet. If we talk more globally, and this, of course, this is very general, because again, how it really affects each person is different. But this happening in the sign of Aquarius, I hope, I also think it will tap into people's hearts and open them up, or open us up to understanding the other better and everyone around us. So humans, it could play out as animals, it could play out as environmentalism. And again, where this hits in someone's chart is going to pinpoint what direction that humanitarian opening up, or you can even say a portal, takes place. Because I feel like this is not disconnected from the solar eclipse we had, was it a week ago now? 1 week? Less than a week? Monday? This past week? It's not disconnected from that. And that in Western astrology, or well, in astrology, but usually it's seen from the Western perspective, conjoined the galactic center. So I think it's all this energy coming together for those who are open to it and not resistant to the challenges and restrictions the Saturn side might bring in. It opens our center, our heart, to more compassion, more understanding, more caring, more kindness. So that's what I'm feeling a lot with this. And then on the Vedic side, so in Vedic astrology, this happens in Capricorn. It's very interesting because the conjunction is at 5 degrees of Capricorn, which is the exact degree of Jupiter's debilitation. So he's considered debilitated in all of Capricorn, which could have caused, while Jupiter and Saturn were in Capricorn in Western, that also contributed to the greater challenges. But back to Vedic, I won't try not to confuse you guys by bouncing back and forth too much. But I want to point out in Vedic, it's in the nakshatra Uttarashada, and there's a strong interconnectedness message with that nakshatra, and that ties in with the humanitarian energy of Aquarius. So that's where we get the double message. And I feel like when you have something that overlaps between the two systems, that's really important. So a greater sense of interconnectedness. And some people that might just play out among their family, or their coworkers, and other people, it's like, oh, I'm connected to all the people who live in my city and the environment. I'm going to recycle more, and other people expand more. It will be global. So that's my hope, and that's what I'm feeling. It won't happen on the 21st, right? That's the opening. That's the turning point for this to expand within each of us. Yeah, this Monday. Well, when I record things a few days ahead, my mind, time-wise, my mind's already past it. And then I'm like, wait, what date was that? Louise says Saturn-Jupiter conjunction in an air sign. I think the positive aspect is that it will restrict misinformation while improving better. That's true. It can do that too. And Aquarius, in a modern sense, is a lot of astrologers attribute internet, Ethernet communication with Aquarius and Uranus. So Uranus rules Aquarius, but also point out that Saturn is the traditional ruler of Aquarius. So he's actually really happy in Aquarius, but more, we'll say nicer, like, because Capricorn's his really like very at home and grounded, but very stubborn energy. And Aquarius, like Saturn gets to be, I want to say Saturn gets to be more himself instead of stereotyped like in Capricorn. Hi, Jada. Brianna says, love the way you describe human. Oh, thank you. Because it's not just, I mean, the word humanitarian, right, has human in it, but it's about caring for everyone and everything around us, at least in my view. So it could be like you go into animal rescue, or, you know, cleaning up the oceans, you know, something environmental that can and will or does affect everyone around the world in some way. Lisa says, I have been quieter lately. Oh, you're saying you've been studying. You guys are talking among yourselves. Yeah, that's a good, oh, you guys are talking. Okay, so what else did I want to say about? So that's mostly what I'm feeling. And again, like some people, some places, it will be noticeable. Some places not for a while, because it takes, especially with Saturn energy, it takes time for those things to play out. Jupiter likes to expand. He's much quicker moving energetically than Saturn. But again, they're right together. 0 degrees of Aquarius, very focused on Aquarian energy. Things putting into motion, energy putting into motion individually. We may take some actions that put things into motion that change our lives, that then affect other lives, affect the people, the things around us. But it's a long-term energy with Saturn there. Oops, wait, it popped. Jen said, just had family rock up. We have to catch that replay. Oh, I think you're talking to someone else. Okay. Lady Blind was a Capricorn moon. Yeah, so you probably felt when they're together in Capricorn. You probably felt that a lot. Probably, yeah. It could have made you more emotionally stubborn during that period, but that would have been a way to manage the heavy Saturn energy. With Thresh, oh, so Jen left. Okay, bye. I wasn't getting that message. Diane says, I believe I read that this conjunction has occurred about 100 years. So this is it was in the 1600s when this conjunction was last this close to Earth. And it's not when like Jupiter and Saturn were this close together. That happens about every 20 years. But it's because of, so that, you know, the planet's orbits, I want to get like a model of the solar system. The planet's orbits aren't perfectly round, they're elliptical. And so it's just where their placement is at 0 degrees of Aquarius and where the Earth is in our orbit around the sun. We just happen to be like very close together during this conjunction. So that's the, he said 800 years ago. Well, since the 1600s, last time it was this close. 800 years ago, is that 1600s? 400, 600 years ago? 400 years ago? But that would, if that's true, and I meant to check this, but I hadn't had a chance, that Aquarius, so some planets like are closest to Earth in certain signs, that if in Aquarius, when the conjunction occurs, like always in Aquarius, that it's closest to Earth. So it could be that. But I didn't get a chance to calculate it out or look it up and see, but someone out there can do that. I'll probably do it later. But yeah, so Wandering Wild is a 20-year cycle because they'll conjoin again every approximately 20 years. It's tricky with astrology because we'll say 20 years or, you know, like Jupiter goes through the zodiac every 12 to, you know, people used to say 12 years, but it's 12 to 13 because we're looking at it from our Earth years, not those planets experience, right? So Jada says it was the last conjunction in Aquarius 800 years ago. Okay. And I heard something about 1200. So that's 4, 8, and 12. So that would be, if it was last in Aquarius 800 years ago, then in the 1600s, it would have been in the opposite sign of My brain's glitching. Help, help, help. Aquarius, 11th sign. This sign. Leo. Okay, I should know that. I'm a Leo. But so it must be Aquarius and Leo. So Leo would have been 800 years ago if Aquarius was, or 400 years ago if Aquarius was 800 years ago, and then 1200 years ago would have been Leo again. If the elliptical orbits are coinciding in that way. So yeah, if you want to keep looking stuff up, Jada, that'd be awesome. Yeah, 0 degrees of Aquarius in Western astrology, 5 degrees Capricorn in Vedic. Anand says, I think Pluto will be in Capricorn too, right? So Pluto's still in Capricorn. He's very slow moving. I felt strong Pluton. Yeah, Pluto's in a sign for like approximately, again, it's approximately because it's our Earth years, right? Like 28-ish years, depends on some retrogrades and all that. So a long time. That's why Pluto's considered generational, and he's a big part of evolutionary astrology because it's a generational evolution of Pluto's transit through each sign. Jada says, don't quote me. Okay, I won't. I am more sidereal zodiac. I'm here to listen. Well, still, if it's like something was 400 years ago and something was 800 and then something was 1200, that's still a 400-year cycle sidereally. And it would still apply, but the signs would shift. That makes sense. Lady Blind Wolf says, so how would this affect the person that is a Capricorn? Just wondering. Now that they're moving out of Capricorn, or when they were in Capricorn, Lady Blind Wolf? Like, how has the last year-ish been? Can you clarify? Lisa says Pluto's been in Capricorn since 2008. Yeah, it's a really long cycle. It's like 28-ish years. Something, again, depending on retrogrades and stuff, but long time. Yes, it makes real sense. Cool. I was just thinking, was there anything else I want to say? Well, some people have talked about how this conjunction at 0 degrees of Aquarius is a signal for the age of Aquarius. And that's always something for me to think about. Like, the ages are designated when at the spring equinox in the northern hemisphere, the sun rises in a specific sign. Now, this would be based on the astronomy. So this is the precession of the equinoxes, and that moves retrograde. So they go like, so I feel we're still in the age of Pisces. So the next age is back, would be the age of Aquarius. And the stars, the planets move retrograde 1 degree every 72 years. So I do feel, I'll get back to that, but I do feel that this conjunction is a signal for the dawning of the age of Aquarius. And though some people think we're in it, and there are various, like, many different calculations out there and all that stuff. But to me, it's like, well, when is the sun rising in Aquarius? When does the sun begin to rise in Aquarius on the spring equinox in the northern hemisphere? Jay says it depends on when starts the Yuga cycles, because it usually takes, to switch houses. That's, so 2,160 years is 30 times 72 degrees. So 30 times, so 2160, right? So that's how it's calculated. So I calculated this once, and I forget, but it's like 300 something years. But I just want to, like, right now, so I have my sidereal ephemeris here on the spring equinox. So March 22nd or so in the actual sky. So for those who don't know, Western astrology is not based on the actual astronomy. It's based on a fixed system. It's still applicable. It's great, and it's not wrong because of that, because you can look all over the internet, like, your astrological sign is wrong. It's like, no, that's a certain system. But I use the sidereal ephemeris, the Vedic one, because it matches the astronomy. So on the spring equinox, this year, the sun rose at 6 degrees of Pisces, right? So that's 6 more degrees it needs to go back until it rises on in Aquarius. So it would rise at 30 degrees of Aquarius, and then with the precession going retrograde. So let me just calculate this out because I want to remember. So it's 6 degrees, and it's 1 degree every 72 years times 72. So in about 432 years. So we'll just say approximately 400 years. Will, based on the astronomical definition of the ages, be the age of Aquarius. So that's why I feel like we are in the dawning of the age of Aquarius. We still have to open our hearts more. We have to feel that interconnectedness more with not just human beings, with animals, with plants, with the whole planet, and whatever else you believe is out there that you need to connect to. Hey, Amy, Mystic Rose Tarot. You got home 30 and just saw your live question. How does the Jupiter-Saturn conjunction relate to Vedic astrology? So in Vedic astrology, it's in Capricorn. And I barely touched on this, but she asked, so let's go into it more. It's at 5 degrees of Capricorn. And that's the exact degree that Jupiter is debilitated, though he's generally considered debilitated in all of Capricorn. But he's debilitated at 5 degrees in Uttarashada Nakshatra. That's like his weakest spot. So this conjunction in Vedic astrology in Capricorn, which Saturn rules, Jupiter is at his weakest. Just looking at that sign as an isolation. So in Vedic astrology, the focus is on what do you want in your life for the long term. It's really all about the Saturn energy. What do you want to build? Will it last long term? Is it stable enough? If it's like, Saturn's father time, and in Vedic astrology is called Shani, which is very much like a like justice card energy. Is what you're doing right? Is what you're doing for the best? Is what you're doing, something that's going to sustain? So in that sense, it's you could say it's much harsher energetically than the 0 degrees of Aquarius. But again, it's like if you are willing to work with the Saturn energy and face those obstacles, it's really going to be lots of slowdowns for a lot of people for whom this affects directly, who have like their ascendant or their moon in at around 5 degrees of Capricorn. Like it can indicate a lot of hard work for some people who are strongly affected by this. Yeah. But I don't know if you heard this part, Amy, you probably didn't, but the nakshatra that this conjunction is in Vedic astrology is very much about interconnectedness. So there's still that humanitarian side. And a lot of the restrictions that Saturn or Shani brings about, one, are for us to gain great knowledge and wisdom through Jupiter in a weakened state, because he's guru. That will, for some people who resist the Saturn energy, will be forced through their experiences to see, to understand, to even just acknowledge that there is interconnectedness. And through that, then the heart can open in a more humanitarian way. Okay, I feel like that was a loaded answer there. I lost the chat. He says, we are alive. We are in the age of being alive. That is true. Yes, the dawning of the age of Aquarius. Jada, I'm a give, Amber. A huge hug. So glad I found you. Oh, thank you. Have you ever used Stellarium? Is that an app? That's what got me started. I was clearly born in the foot of the Virgo, but it says I'm a Pisces crazy. So are you saying Virgo sun in Vedic astrology? Can you clarify, Jada? Yeah, can you clarify that? Because that might be talking about different parts of your chart. Okay, Amy said, oh, I know deep hearing during the time. moving into more energy medicines. Yeah, so this may steer some people. Again, this depends on what house this falls in your own natal chart. You know, it could like be your shift, your calling, your work, how you might be of service to other people. It might affect your relationships, your home life, your family. There's a huge split. Okay, wait, okay, now I'm caught up. Okay. So Saturn Capricorn overpowers the Jupiter energy. Yeah. And that was true the past year-ish also, because Jupiter's debilitated in Capricorn and Saturn rules it. Doesn't matter which system. So that makes sense, especially with what was going on in 2020, because we live in a very Western world, especially in the US. And I feel when you're looking like at very westernized countries, that looking at the Western astrology it tends to fit it a little better. Because I look at Vedic astrology from a very spiritual perspective, and that's really hard to do with like a large entity like a country, though you can. But it makes sense. And it's funny because I was thinking about this like the past couple of days, like last year when I did my year ahead tarot readings, I didn't do just year ahead tarot readings for all signs. I specifically chose to do something, I think I called it something like diving deep within in 2020. And now I'm looking back, I'm like, oh, I wonder if I did that because somehow I picked up this energy that people are going to have to be alone and faced with themselves a lot. So I found that interesting that I chose not to do a normal year ahead. I didn't do any astrology year ahead. I just did, that was the only one, I think. So actually, I think I'm going to go back and listen to what I said for my signs. Lisa, yeah, I've heard that poor Jupiter got a beating with Pluto and Saturn. Yeah, so that was heavy. That was like, and then, it's a time where they were all together. And yeah, so Jupiter's energy had to be quieter. It doesn't mean it was totally gone. Of course, again, it depends. Like if you have a strong Jupiter in your chart, it might have been a little stronger for you, or you felt it more, even though it may not have affected you more. But yeah, I think Jupiter's energy, his like growth and expansion was very restricted, very, very hidden as well. Because of course, like this past year, the pandemic, like, yeah, a lot of people, like their lives seemed to be more restricted. There was no growth. It was quite the opposite. Yet in certain industries, there's been tremendous growth, right? So yeah, it's interesting. Yeah, it would be interesting to look at like pull up certain companies like, hand sanitizer companies versus restaurants, and a restaurant. And if you can get like their founding date and like compare their charts for the past year, that would be such an interesting project that I don't have the time to do. No, you didn't throw me off track, Amy. I tend to go all over with lives. I have no agenda. That's why I'm like, well, just chat. Jada says, just look up stellarium.org. It's a star system where you can pull an actual day, date, and time and see real time where the sun and planets were. Oh, that's cool. Yeah, I have my Vedic program, right? But I have some apps too, astronomy apps, because that's what's going on. But I'll check that. I've heard of it. I've probably looked at it before, but thank you. I'll check it out some more. I need better apps on my phone. I want to find some better ones too. Lisa says, in your third house, so change to how I communicate. Yeah, communication. It also depends. I don't know if there's a teaching element to your third house, a Jupiter aspect or placement. If I recall, you're a Sag ascendant, so you're probably a natural teacher, but I'm picking up teaching for you with communication. But it's general communication too. It's an app on the computer. Okay, I'll check it out. Thank you. Karen says, wow. Diane says, I don't have anything in my third house. What does this mean? So if you have an empty house, as it's said in astrology, that's okay. Most people have an empty house or a few. Or occasionally up to half the chart is empty. It doesn't mean like you're missing that area of your life. There's still the sign it's in and the ruler of that sign that has an impact on that house and what's aspecting that ruler. So it means there's not added energy in that house. And when there's transits, they can't aspect a planet to that house. So you can miss out on some energies if there's a transit that would normally, like a square or a trine to something in a planet in that house. But at the same time, it's free and clear of effects from transits, except when a planet is transiting your third house or the ninth house, which is opposite it. But mostly when it's transiting that exact house, because still there's no planet to aspect. Jupiter rules your chart, Sag rising. Yeah. Do you want to share where your Jupiter is? Do you know what sign and house your Jupiter is, Lisa? If you don't want to share, that's fine. It's public, you know. What sign rules your third house, Diane? That will give you an idea. Oh, yeah. Let us know if you want to share. If you don't want to share, because that's like your personal stuff too. Jay says, wow, that would be interesting, but I don't have the time to look it up. I know. I'm like, how much time do I have to do all the things I want to do? Lots of stuff gets left out. Sag rising here too. I'm a Sag rising too. So as Sag risings, depending on how big in Western astrology your first house has been, the last 2+ years has probably been a little challenging. Anand says, I think Mercury is combust now. So Mercury's never more than like a sign away from the sun. Don't quote me on this, but he's probably technically combust half the time. So usually his combustion is not considered, although when he's like exactly the same degree as the sun, let's look it up. You could say, and that's called like Kazimi in Arabic astrology, a Kazimi. So I have my ephemeris, my other one right here. Today's what, the 18th? The sun, yeah. So the sun and Mercury are both at 26 degrees of Sagittarius. So it is an exact combustion or a Kazimi. I think it's sort of, that term means like the planet is like, you know, like in a suicide mission, because it's like right in the center of the sun. So combustion, if you don't know, is when a planet is burnt by the sun because it's within a certain number of degrees. So yeah, there is an exact combustion right now. Thank you, Anand. It only lasts like not very long. Where are we again? A couple of days, and then they start to separate. So about a week where it's really close. But again, that happens often because they're close together. And then Mercury retrogrades 3 times a year. So in the sky, they're close together. So they can't astronomically be farther apart than they are in the sky. But again, they're always close, and Mercury retrogrades, and sometimes he crosses back over, goes over and back and over 3 times. So there will be 3 combustions in a retrograde. So it's a very common thing. But again, don't quote me, but I'm going to say it's probably like half the time technically combust. And I think the combustion degrees of Mercury, I think it's something like within 13 degrees of the sun. So that's a lot. That's a lot of his journey if he's within those degrees, plus or minus 13 degrees. Louise, question. How can we use this conjunction from an energetic point of view to take advantage of it? Don't rush anything. Still work with, so Western perspective, even though they're both going to be in Aquarius now, and it's much lighter for Jupiter and much lighter for Saturn, still be patient. Don't rush anything, especially when it comes to growth. Anything you want to grow, specifically depending on what house Aquarius is in your chart, or houses if it's Western astrology, unless you do whole house Western, but I don't do that in Western. I use Placidus. Don't rush things in that area of your life, especially, and let them grow in a very solid way. So Saturn, we think of restrictions and roadblocks and challenges and and things being very slow, but he also is about stability and foundations. So work with the stability and foundations of Saturn's energy. Don't rush what you're building in any way, whether that's something you're working on within yourself, a relationship, a family, a career, a hobby. Don't rush anything. Think of others. Think of your impact on the environment as you're doing it, and you'll be in alignment with these energies. And then Jupiter he'll like help whatever it is really grow and expand for you. Heaps more teaching on the cards. Oh, very cool. Oh, wait, I lost my spot. Okay, going back. Oh, a lot of things came in. Okay. Jada, you're a Pisces moon, Sagittarius rising. Is that it, Jada? I'm Pisces moon and Sagittarius rising too, in Western. Very interesting. Hi, Raven, morning glory. So Lisa, your Jupiter's in your 10th house, but you're a Sag rising. So you just mean the 10th house is naturally the Capricorn house, but what sign is your 10th house? So it would be like Virgo, or so you're Sag rising, right? Aries, Leo, so it'd be Leo, Virgo, Libra-ish, but it's in your 10th, so great teaching as your career. Oh, Virgo. Oh, you were the next comment. Sorry, I didn't even get to the next comment. So Virgo, yeah, no problem. As I went on, and I should have just looked. Yeah, so Virgo is very meticulous, so very organized. Yeah, teach, communicate. Don't rush anything. Don't rush the process. Fly Butterfly 15, hello. You've got Vedic Taurus ascendant, 3rd house of Saturn and Jupiter, K2 Dasha on, natal Saturn in 7th, and Jupiter in Gandanta at cusp of 11th and 12th in Ashvini. I'm trying to visualize the chart in my head. Yeah, 3H asp of Jupiter. Aspect, your 3rd house is being aspected by Saturn and Jupiter. Yeah, so in Vedic, the planets have specific aspects. They will, of course, the strongest is always the sign in the house that the planet is transiting through, and then the opposite sign house. And then Jupiter aspects the 5th and 9th houses from where he is. And Saturn is 3, and then 7, of course, is the opposite, 3, 7, and 10. So you can figure that out in your chart. So it's not like just trines and squares like in Western. Raven, morning glory, I had a chart done for me, but they didn't tell me how to read it. So they just pulled one up for you, I guess. Or they read it for you, but they didn't go through. I mean, I guess I don't have to teach you how to read your chart, but I like to do that. I mean, that's why I wrote my book and everything. It's like, here, I'll do a chart reading for you, but learn how to read it yourself. It's much easier. Your Jupiter is in the 10th house of Virgo. Yeah, thank you. Sorry. Lisa's sun and Virgo, moon and Taurus. Okay, you guys are talking. That's between you. Anand, I felt it. Lisa, I'm Cancer moon. Oh, you're talking. Love like the side conversations. Like, oh, what are they saying? Dana's rising is 24 Sag, minus 23. So an interesting thing, this solar eclipse was exactly on my Sagittarius rising to the minute. I was like, wow, this is a big turning point. Did my whole world change last Monday? No, because it's setting up a new cycle. And then of course, that could be a 6-month, 1-year cycle. And I'm sure, I know there are going to be big changes in the year ahead, but then there's the larger Saros cycle, which is like 19 years. But then it coinciding, like how Heidi mentioned, like Jupiter, Saturn at 0 Aquarius it's like, what were the terms you used? It's like it's a new, basically another new cycle. So it's very interesting. Amy Mystic Rose says, would an empty house mean that the individual would have less challenges to contend within the particular characteristics of the house? Possibly, depending on what those planets would be and what they would be aspecting or aspected by in a person's chart. But also kind of like when it's empty, it's open, it's not affected by difficult transits that could be aspecting planets there, but they're not. So it's not exactly the same energy, but when like a moon is void of course, which happens very often, and that means the moon's in a position where it's not being aspected by anything directly, any other planet in the sky, it's like it's empty, it's free and clear. And some astrologers will say, don't do anything during moon void of course, but that could happen like every few days. And I believe it's like when the moon is changing sign and it's not aspected by anything. I think that's the technical definition of it. But it happens so often, like things that happen can happen like several times a week. It's just like, you can't let that control your life and do nothing for those few hours every time it's happening, right? But it's a similar energy where it's like it's free and clear of getting affected by other planets, but you also miss out on, like, let's say a good Jupiter aspect to a house, but there's no planet to aspect, so it doesn't get that extra boost in an angle, only when Jupiter's going through that house. Yeah, I hope that makes sense. So Fly Butterfly is the exact conjunction at 7 degrees Capricorn, is aspecting my natal moon Cancer. What does that mean? Should you be concerned? I don't think you should be concerned. It will definitely be so this would be Vedic because you're saying Capricorn, Cancer. It depends on what houses they are. But you have moon in Cancer, so you have you're very emotional, you're probably highly empathic. This can also indicate you're pretty intuitive. So you may feel a lot. Again, this depends on what house this is for you. And you may feel emotional restriction, like during the days around this conjunction. So I would just say the only concern is that don't hold your emotions in, let them flow as they need to flow. Yeah. Or, I mean, it's possible, depending on other things in your chart, aspecting this and stuff in the houses, that you feel unusually unemotional, very non-moon in Cancer-like because of the Saturn restriction, because he's strong there in Capricorn. Yeah. So I don't think there's anything to be concerned about, but I think you'll either feel a lot and want to hold it in, and I suggest don't, or you'll just be like, I don't feel the waves of emotions I normally do. Yeah, but I wouldn't be concerned. If in Vedic this was exactly on your moon, so if you had moon in Cancer, then you would be deep into your Sadasati with Saturn on your moon, and that would be really difficult, but this isn't that. So I think you're okay. Yeah. Hello again, Lady Blind Wolf. Also Cancer moon. I feel like it's a controlled expansion experience. Second house. Whoops, I just lost it. Where are you? I should pop these up on screen. Oh, there's a lot of a controlled. Oh, I haven't shown them before. I just found out how. Dana says, I feel like it's a controlled expansion experience. 0 degrees Aquarius, your second house. Well, second house is house of gains. And, Saturn transit in the second is like really focused on long-term gain. And so typically it's a material house. So it usually has to do with money and your possessions. I call it the house of stuff. your things, your material things. So yeah, controlled expansion of your things, of your money, of your finances. I mean, remember, there's lucky Jupiter there, but you got to still work with Saturn's energy. So long-term investments, long-term investments, don't buy things on a whim, don't go on shopping sprees. That would be like Jupiter rebelling against Saturn with this. Yeah, controlled material expansion. It could be really good. I like Saturn transits in the second house because it is a great time to set up those like retirement or savings, or add to ones you might already have, invest in things, long-term investments. And it's not technically a house of property, but it is a good time if you're in that position to buy property as an investment. Yeah. Okay. Brianne, Taurus is wonderful earth sign. I love Cancer moon for family and emotion. Yeah. And I mean, Cancer is the natural fourth house. So that is all about family and emotions too. Heidi said, I only got my Vedic Sidereal in front of me. And you can share that if you want. Taurus, wonderful earth sign. Did I repeat? I think I repeated some of the chat here. Lisa says, I never rush anything. I'm a Taurus sun, and the Virgo brings in a good deal of anxiety around getting things done. Yeah, there's a saying about Virgo energy. Is Virgo, their positive side is they're very meticulous, and their negative side is they're very meticulous. So a little Virgo joke, but Virgos can get things done really well, very thoroughly. But there can be that anxiety around it too. Saturn in Capricorn and Jupiter in Aquarius. So you have you're in your Saturn return, Heidi. Right. And Jupiter in Aquarius, and you'll be entering your Jupiter return soon, like, because Jupiter goes in and back and he's like has this weird quick back and forth transit. So you're going to have both those returns. I believe there'll be an overlap. Yeah, which is also like new cycles in 2 more layers for you. That's really interesting. Very interesting. I wonder where your nodes are compared to the nodes now. I wrote a book. I have a Vedic astrology book, Shedding Light on Jyotisha. The link should be below. I don't know if you set this, when you set this up on StreamYard, everything comes up below, but it should be below. Or just go to my website, juliannevictoria.com, and go on the Dex Books Courses page. All the links are there. But everything should be below if it's all set up properly. Okay, where can I find it? Oh, I just answered that. Okay, or just go to my website, juliannevictoria.com. It's linked everywhere. Okay. Nadia, hello. Second house Saturn in Scorpio, fourth house Capricorn, having conflict with my relationship. So are you talking Western or Vedic? If Western, then Jupiter and Saturn are kind of, as we speak, moving out of your fourth house, which is home and family. It's not house of relationship, though. Yeah, I need more info. Okay, Anand, the eclipse energy was strong. It was. To me, it was like, because again, it was like exact on my ascendant, and that applies to either system. To me, it was just like a happy closure to the past few years for me, which have been great in many ways, but they've been very, very challenging, especially because this was on my ascendant, very physically challenging, because the ascendant is your physical self. Mugga and Aslacia. Oh, yeah, you have Aslacia. I lost it. I keep losing things. And you've been on fire since the eclipse. Good fire? Like excited on fire? Or uncomfortably on fire? Yeah. Eclipse energy slapped me upside the head today. Ooh. Oh, hi, blue collar mom. How are you doing? How's your family? I'm sorry it slapped you upside the head. Didn't I have like one of my weeklies like 3 weeks ago? Was like a slap in the head, something about a slap, the universe giving us a slap. So I wonder if that energy is playing out now. Thank you, Lisa. Oh, thanks for being here. Watch back. Got it. If we start an update in Aquarius at winter solstice, it will probably take some time. Oh, let me show it. If we start an update at Aquarius at winter solstice, it will probably take some time at first for the download, like when adding a new before. Yeah. So yeah. So I usually say it's like we don't feel everything like exactly when it's happening. Some people might, especially if they hit something very exact on your chart. But it's usually like the start of something. It's that energy, those energies are put into play. And then it takes time and life for them to download and the programs to be brought up and us to figure it out, right? It's like figuring out a new program that you've downloaded on your computer, like how does it work? And then it all, we don't think this, right? It's just the energy's happening. So it takes time. It takes time. And yeah, so maybe in a year's time, maybe not until Saturn's out of Aquarius, will a lot of people feel the effects. Because sometimes it's like looking back, we see all those energies and how they have affected our lives. For those people following astrology, right? Jason, I see the books and goodies in your description. Cool. Yeah. I try to make sure everything's like all set up. But sometimes I could miss things since I have to do it all myself. Okay, so did that. Taurus ascendant. You're welcome, Fly Butterfly. Okay, so you're on your 3rd, 9th house axis. Yeah, so I can play out with communication, 3rd house communication, short distance travel, neighbors, siblings, 9th house spirituality, philosophy. So your 3rd house is Cancer. You're a very emotional communicator. Yeah. Oh, so if Saturn and just people want to see, now that I figured out how to do that, people want to see, so Jupiter and Saturn in Capricorn. Wait, Taurus? Yeah, okay. In Capricorn, I have to like visualize a chart. So I'm like calculating in my head. In the 9th, like Jupiter's happy in the 9th, even though he's there with Saturn. So yeah, you have nothing to worry about. You're fine. Okay. Mystic Rose Tarot, take a look into Julianne's Jyotish books and decks. Oh, thank you. So true, but yes, lots of anxiety always. It keeps skipping. Lost my spot. There I am. You feel that energy of the returns. Yeah. So you're going to be in that the next couple of years or so. Nadia, Western. I lost your question. 2nd house, Saturn in Scorpio. 4th house. Yeah. So those aren't, so so 4th house Capricorn, but Saturn and Jupiter are moving into Aquarius. But while they have been in Capricorn the past year or so, that would have been squaring your 7th house of relationships. So you should feel some relief from that. How that's going to play out, I don't know, but they won't be aspecting, or Saturn at least won't, and Jupiter, but Saturn especially won't be aspecting your 7th. So that's helpful. Menopause fire. Interesting. Saturn return. Saturn return. Dana says, let's see. It's easier to read when I do this. I've been feeling a lot of Ascension type of physical discomfort. Yeah, that can definitely be. Now, interesting you brought that up, because I think when a lot of people talk about like Ascension symptoms, every time I hear it, because my background is as a healer as well, much longer than I've been an astrologer, which also has been quite some time now. I think, oh, those are all healing symptoms. And so I think when our souls, our energies are ascending, and that can mean different things for different people, but when we're in that growth, basically, we're healing things within ourselves too, when we feel that in our body. So to me, it's like a healing process as we ascend. Yes. Yes, remember you said that about a slap. Yeah. Diane, I'm in my Western chart. Am I? Okay. In my Western chart, I am Pisces Sun. It jumps. Pull it up. Okay. In my Western chart, I am Pisces Sun, Cancer Ascendant, and Sagittarius Moon, but I'm thinking my Vedic chart is more me. Yeah, so just find an online calculator and pull up your Vedic chart. Make sure it says Vedic. It depends on the degrees. So just this, I mean, that's a lot of water. Pisces Sun and Cancer Ascendant, and Sagittarius Moon. Yeah. It's also a lot of mutable energy. So check it up, pull one up, go Google search one and see what the ascendant, and especially the ascendant and moon in Vedic, not so much the sun, but look at the sun as well. Menopause. Hey, Dee. How are you? Or Kundalini experience. Yep. Growing pains. Yeah, exactly. Growing pains and healing. Like they just sound like healing symptoms, like emotional, spiritual, and physical healing. And I guess suppose, we have to heal that stuff to quote unquote ascend, whatever that means for each person, because different people have different definitions. Like you're going to 4D or 5D, or, I can't think of things right now, but okay. How are we on time? Oh, has it really been almost an hour? Wow. Anything else anyone wants to add in? Dee, do you have anything you want to add about the Saturn-Jupiter conjunction? What you're feeling, if you're feeling it? Anyone else? I feel like these lives, I'm like, blip, 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 like speed talking. Yeah, but that kind of covers a lot of what people might feel. Louise, oh, hi, media commentary. Oh, hey. Jupiter and Saturn conjunction will take place on my 11-year-old son's second house. He's already doing some coding and video game design. Very cool. Awesome. And Louise says, in my Western chart, I am Capricorn Sun, Gemini Ascendant, Libra Moon, Jupiter in house 11, Aries. Okay. Saturn in house. I will not rush anything with this conjunction. Yeah. So your Capricorn Sun, right? Okay. Well, again, I'm like trying to like picture a chart. Yeah. Just don't rush anything. And you're a Capricorn Sun, so you have a natural hardworking ethic. That doesn't mean you're always that way every time in your life, because the transit of Saturn will affect that in other transits. But like you have this natural ethic, but you got that Gemini ascendant that can be like indecisive at times. But yeah, so don't rush anything. And if you're unsure of anything, if you're indecisive, don't make a rush decision. Wait on it. Dee says, I will have to watch the replay since I got here. Like, yeah. Yeah. Diane says both are, okay. Oh, you guys are talking. Okay. Jada, I just pulled my Vedic chart. Wow. So different. I'm going to study a little. Okay. Study it a little and then study it a lot for a few years. You just got to keep studying. A great way to learn, like you study your own chart, of course, but then study the charts of people you know really well. like your parents or siblings or your best friend, your partner. And I say that because you know things that have happened in their lives and you know their personalities. And so you can, it's like you can check yourself like, oh, is I would say, let's say, it looks like you're going to be a lawyer, and hey, they are. It's really important. And then you keep studying it. You think you've learned it, and then you go back and you're like, oh, I didn't notice this before. Lost. We jumped. Once Pluto moves into his second house, he might accomplish some big things. Yeah, so that's a house of gains. House of gains. Now Pluto, Pluto will be in his second house for like 20 something years. So long transit. Yeah. Okay. Diane says, I have never heard of Kundalini. I think it's Kundalini they meant. I think, but you guys can correct that. Brianne says, your weekly posted earlier reminds me of all you spoke about as well. Love the Ace of Wands. Yeah, I liked seeing that. Yeah, I was thinking that as I was doing, I was like, oh, this is part of the conjunction energy too. I mean, when I do readings on sort of different, like a tarot reading and then astrology, like the messages like nearly always have lots of overlap because it's the same time period. Aquarius sun, Scorpio ascendant, and Sagittarius moon. Oh, your Sag moon. Okay. Oh, in Vedic. So in Vedic, so I would call you a Scorpio. Just by your ascendant sign. Anon felt it, great vibe here. Thank you. Hello, Scott. Diane, where did you get your Vedic chart, please? Me? I have a program. So I use Parashara's Light. It's the Vedic program I use. But there's a bunch of free online calculators. Just type in free Vedic online calculator or Vedic astrology or even Indian astrology calculator. And there should be ones you can pull up. Thank you, Amy. Good night. I will say hello to Mini-Me. I don't know if you heard her screaming in the background. Oh, you did? Okay, speak soon. Yeah, I think she was resisting brushing her teeth. It's a nightly thing. Dee, do you offer chart reading services? Yes, I do astrology readings. So yeah, go to my website, juliannevictoria.com. I am currently booked until the first full week of January. So this is my really busy time of year, but I also have extra time to work because my husband's off from work, but I'm already booked into January. So don't expect it like before Christmas or anything like that. So, but I will in the new year, because we just found a new preschool, I will actually have weekday time to work. So most of my work is on the weekends and then little bits on the evenings when I'm not too tired. So yeah, I'll actually be have more availability in the new year. Jada says, let me just pop you up. I have intensely did that with my children and myself now. Oh, reading charts. Yeah, completely different. Hi, Betsy. Yeah, I think we're just about wrapping up. It's been an hour. Anonymous, I'm excited about Sag, Scorpio energy. Scorpio's energy was strong this year. Yeah. And Brianne, good night. Good night, Amy. All right. Any last questions? And we'll wrap this up. Finally, I did a live that wasn't almost 2 hours long. They go so quick for me. But I haven't done one in a while. So I thought I was going to make a video and I'm like, oh, well, I have the energy. I'll go live tonight. So thank you everyone for being here. Yeah, watch back if you came on late. I kind of talked about what the energies are. A lot of Western, but a little Vedic too. But I also have my Vedic astrology year ahead videos up, the 2021 for each sign. But you need to know what your Vedic ascendant or moon sign is. So you'll have to, if you don't know it, just Google a free chart and pull it up and watch those 2 videos. But especially the ascendant, because it is a year ahead reading. And I feel like those match the ascendant. So since I brought it up, when like from my experience, reading horoscopes or listening to horoscopes that people put out there, if you're looking at a year, your ascendant's going to resonate a little bit better. If you're looking at a monthly one, this is really Western, your sun sign. And if you're looking at a daily horoscope, I would read your moon sign, because the moon moves every couple of days, 2.5 days. Thank you, Louise. Have a wonderful Yule. Thank you, Anand. Thank you, Diane. Jada, thank you for this. You will be hearing from me. Okay. Awesome. All right, everyone, I'm going to sign out. So happy Yule, happy solstice, Merry Christmas, Happy New Year. Although I might try to pop on live again over the next couple of weeks, since I'll have extra time. Oh, Diane says, does it really matter if you do not know your time of birth? Yes. Because that is how your ascendant is calculated. So your ascendant or rising sign, I tend to say ascendant with Vedic and rising with Western, but they're the same thing, is the constellation that was rising on the Eastern horizon at your moment of birth. So you need your birth time, or as close to it as you can get. So if you know you were born early in the morning, or you were born around sunrise, find out when sunrise was, or you're born around noon, because it can change within a few minutes. So it is really helpful. It's really important. And there are ways to rectify your chart, which is a way an astrologer tries to figure out what your ascendant or rising sign is. But it is really important. You can still, with your other birth information, well, you can't really do this with Vedic, but with Western astrology, you can pull up a chart and then just read it as a sun chart. But you can't do that with the Vedic, because it's based on the ascendant or the moon. Thank you, Brianne. This conjunction is right on my natal moon. I've been so tired. Is that normal? It's heavy energy. So yeah, I would say that's normal. So give yourself extra rest if you can, hopefully. 4th house of home, family. Stay home and rest. I mean, you're probably home, right? Stay home, give yourself extra sleep. The moon is also nighttime and dream time, so you might have interesting dreams. Last question. Do you use Fagan Bradley or Hindu Lahiri? And there's Lahiri calculations. All right. Thank you, everyone. The same degree. Yeah. So if you can rest, but you might feel like heavy emotions with this. Also Lisa, depending on the rest of your chart and what the conjunction or both of them being in Capricorn affected you, it could be lighter. But just one isolated thing, them being on your moon, yeah, you might be really tired. You might feel heavy emotions. Let whatever comes flow out of you. And I would say rest, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, if you can, or as much as you can. Thank you, Dee. Thank you, Jada. Thank you, everyone. Okay. Have a wonderful weekend.